Welcome back to musicmoose.org, and we had focused on the major scales here in G and C and bouncing back and forth in the previous lesson, and we hope you learned a lot of good stuff there, and you're starting to get your technique and changing chords and getting the linear shape of the scale down and the first position chord shape of the scale down. Now we did G and C, so we're gonna go up to D again. So we like this G, C, and D pattern, and as you will learn further down the road, it's basically the layout, a pattern for so many popular songs in so many styles, really: rock and roll, bluegrass, blues, folk, even some jazz and reggae. So this is kind of why we're sticking with the G, C, and D chord, which we'll get into teaching. Each one is assigned to a number, and if you've often been wondering, you've heard the term 1, 4, 5, where does that come from? Well, we're going to get into that. So if you were to say 1, 4, and 5 out of G, obviously G is your 1. Your 4 is going to be D, because if you counted, I'm sorry, your 4 is going to be C. I can't count, friends. If you counted up, your 4 would be C. So if I went 1, 2, 3, 4, there's the C, okay? And if I went up to the 5, there's the D. Pretty simple, and like I said, so many progressions are based out of this format. So we're going to go to the D major scale now without trying to make that too confusing. We're going to emphasize more on this 1, 4, 5 pattern and what you can do out of it in the future here. So just like with the G and C scale, we showed you a linear form first, going down the neck. So once again, the beauty of the patterns of scales on guitar, the pattern is not going to change, the spacing and whatnot. So just like with the C, starting on the 5th string on the 3rd fret, we had C, linear, major scale. Okay, if I took that C up 2 frets to the D, the pattern is going to stay the same. Obviously, it's not on the 3rd, 5th, and 7th fret, but it jumped up a whole step, and now it's on the 7th, or the 5th, 7th, and 9th. There goes my counting again. Okay, so here we go, starting with the D note. Up to the higher D, and down. Okay, from that D, linear. Now, the D in the open shape, just like we also showed you with the G and the C, you can play this D major scale right here out of the first position D chord. So, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, and down. Right there in D. Not too difficult. So now we've got the G, C, and D major scales down linear and in the open first position. So what I would like to try now actually would be a small arpeggio off of each chord shape. And arpeggio meaning you're going to take the order of the 8 notes of a chord. When you want to arpeggiate over that major scale, it basically means playing a few notes out of the scale in a different order, perhaps, or even the same order, maybe just playing half the scale or what have you. So an example of that, right out of G, now I only played about half of that G scale. Well, why did I do that? Because I'm going to show you this little exercise from G to C and G to D, where we're going to arpeggiate off of each root note, play 3 or 4 notes, and go to the next, come back down and go to the next chord. So pretty simple, right here in G and C and G and D. Okay, that half a scale in G. So now I'll take that to C out of G. And C. And G. And D. And G. And C. And G. D. G. Of course, I changed that last pattern a little bit, and that might throw you for a little bit of a loop, but just wanted to give you an example of bouncing back and forth between chord shapes and arpeggiating a little bit. So if you were to play that particular rhythm, 1 and 2, 3, and C, and G, and D. Now if I was to do that arpeggiating pattern, C, I changed it again a little bit from the original way that I had just played it, but I think you probably are starting to get the gist of that, working from one chord up to the next, incorporating a slight rhythm with a little bit of a walking scale together. And of course, in the next lesson, I think we'll get even a little bit more in depth in that concept. And thank you for joining us on that, friends. I hope that's been explanatory and will work for you. And we'll see you again in the next lesson, hopefully. Thanks for stopping in, friends, at musicmoose.org.